Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala. I come to you from the Pacific Northwest where I live with my partner, our 2 kitties, and 2 adopted Mustangs. Information about the Wild Horse Adoption Program will be in the episode description box. This podcast covers knitting projects, my horsemanship journey, and my other passions like vegetable gardening and bicycling. If you're new here, I hope you find the content interesting. If you're a returning viewer, it's always great to have old friends. The format of this channel typically includes musings on an early walk to the barn to feed the horses, then knitting content, some catch up on the horsemanship journey, and finally more musings or maybe a little bicycling footage if I was lucky enough to get out. Enjoy, and I hope to see you soon. Good morning, YouTube friends. Today is Friday, May 9th. It's about 6 a.m. I'm going to go out and feed the horses. I'm doing things a little bit out of order today. Mostly because when I was getting ready for the day from the house, I could see Odin running around in the round pen, which made me wonder, where is Bragi? And Bragi's hard to see. These are my horses, if you're new here, and welcome. Bragi is a dark bay color, so he's not always easy to see. Odin is gray, so he is a lot easier to see. So I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give him some hay, and make sure that they're where they are supposed to be, and maybe just having some pre-breakfast shenanigans. It's a beautiful morning. It's still chilly out. It's in the 40s. So my tomato plants aren't loving this, but rhubarb's doing great. Asparagus, I see some spears of asparagus growing in that bed there. It's probably easy for you to see the rhubarb. So what is going on today? I am going to meet a friend for coffee and then do some grocery shopping, and then I have to come home and attend a work meeting. Today is my day off, but sometimes things have to happen on Fridays, which is fine. I have some knitting for you. I have 2 finished objects to share. I have an update on my poncho, the owl poncho that I have shown before, and it's a good update. I have 2 new cast-ons, and what else? Oh, Bragi is going to have a lesson today. I'm not sure if we're going to work on trailer training or if we are going to work on more round pen stuff. The round pen stuff was really fun, so hopefully we'll get to do that. And then I'm going to be pet sitting for a friend of mine this weekend. So she lives a couple miles away, so I'll spend, I think, 2 nights there, tomorrow night and maybe Monday night. And go from there. So I don't see the horses in their normal spot, which makes me a little suspicious. So let's go out and see what is going on exactly. Sometimes Bragi challenges my fencing. Oh, they look like they're both in the round pen. So let's just go out and look. Good morning, boys. Were you having some pre-breakfast shenanigans? Shall we start breakfast? All right, I'm gonna feed the boys breakfast. Catch up with you later. Good morning, friends. Good morning again. I am ready for the knitting portion. I'm folding up my owl poncho that I made. I have an update on that. Like I said earlier, I have a couple finished objects and 2 new cast-ons that you haven't seen before. But first let's start with what am I wearing? So this cardigan is the Rye cardigan. I finished it a couple years ago. I want to say in 2021. This is Herbert. And one of the reasons why I remember that is because this is how I found out Herbert was a yarn murderer. So I was knitting on this sweater and he got into my knitting bag and chewed a hole in it. And I had to re-knit, like kind of the upper back, I want to say. So I ended up having to re-knit a lot of it. But you know, it's a worsted weight, a Barocco yarn. It's a Barocco pattern, I think. And it's 3/4 sleeve. I often wear it buttoned, at least the top buttons. These are coconut shell buttons. Maybe a little bit heavy for this sweater. I like to wear it unbuttoned a lot of times when I just need a little extra warmth, and it's a day where it's chilly in the morning, so it's like 40 some degrees. It's getting close to 50 degrees now. The sun's up a little higher than when I started this morning. So this is perfect. And then underneath, I mentioned this last time. This is the Lola top. It is a pattern by Veronika Lindberg, I believe. She goes by Kuto Vakika on YouTube and Instagram. I don't know if you can hear that noise. That is Harley playing in a box of paper. He has taken to wanting to make a bed in there, which is great. It's the perfect size box for him, and it's stuffed with enough paper to make a cushion. So this is basically a broken rib tank top. It's got great coverage. It's knitted with cotton yarn. I don't remember the needle size, but I will put the link to the project page, which I basically followed the pattern. It's got these nice wide straps. So good coverage. It's a little bit higher in the front than the back. Excuse me. It's a great fitting tank top, nice for this time of year, especially if you want to layer it. That was Harley attacking his paper box. I am kind of thinking about knitting another one of these. So maybe this is the year of knitting repeat projects. Is that the right way to say that? Repeating some patterns that I've knitted before is what I'm trying to say. So let me give you an update about the owl poncho. I blocked the bejeebers out of it, like I said I was going to do, and it fits a lot nicer on my shoulders now. So I'm not going to put it on because it's warm. It'll be way too warm with a worsted weight sweater on top of this. So, and I don't want to pull it over my head right now. And if you saw last week's episode, you already saw this. I have worn it once. Just a reminder, they were knit with the US size 10, which I think is a 6mm needle. The brown and the white is a locally produced yarn by a sheep farmer who raises lamb for meat and also makes sheep cheese. So this is truffle. The cream color is fromage, natural colors, and then the gray is a commercial yarn. It's a Patton's worsted. And then this is the flap in front, which I have found very handy when I was running errands
whenever that was, just to be able to have my hands, and then being able to like kind of flip the poncho over my shoulder if I needed to do something else. So the pattern actually ended, I don't know, somewhere around here, and I just added another skein or two of the commercial yarn to make it long enough for what I wanted it for. So a highly modified pattern from a pattern that came in a magazine of ponchos, and it was an Icelandic design, and I found a owl motif in a stitch dictionary. I think it could have been the Pacific Doodle book. That's where I think I found it. My other one is like Knitovation, another stitch dictionary. So those are the updates. Finished object, you have seen these probably multiple times. This is a bag, this is Woolen Women bag that came in a monthly box that I bought during retail therapy when I first injured my shoulder very badly in January. It's doing a lot better. I'm starting to use my shoulder in a very normal way, like I'm able to reach up and put like cups and towels on shelves over my head. So that is great. So here is the finished socks. These are gonna go in my sock stash. I don't block them. I just wear them and then they go in the washing machine. So this yarn colorway was called Romance and Rodeo by Woolen Women. And the pattern is from 52 Weeks of Socks. It is the branches pattern. It's a fairly complex pattern of cables and lace. Very pretty twisted rib heel flap. And then the yellow yarn was a mini from my stash, probably Polka Dot Creek. So those are them. Those are going in my sock stash. I have this much yarn left and this much of the mini. So I think I wrote down, oh, there's a needle in here, which I will need to put that with its friends. Did I write down how much I have left? I need to weigh this to figure out how much I have left, because I could potentially make a pair of shorty socks or add them to scrappy socks. So Woolen Women, retail therapy from January. I'm gonna put these over here. Another finished object that I have been working on. So this is just a commercial bag that my late mother-in-law gave me some years ago. My float tote is complete. So this is, and this bag has a finish or a cast on in there, so I'll show you that in a minute and how it works. So this is a crochet pattern by Knitty Natty, who does the Love and Stitches podcast. I just finished that this morning. So I just did a plain edging on it, just single crochet. There's other ways, so I don't know if you can see this very well, but there's like 3 alternatives for edging, and I just picked the easiest one because that's how I am. Yeah, Love and Stitches, Knitty Natty. It took me longer. It was for a knit along during April, and it took me a little bit longer because it's cotton yarn held double using a size 7 crochet hook, and it just, I mean, I've noticed like if I worked on it a lot, my hands were a little sore, so I often did other things. So what I have left, now this is where I got the idea that perhaps I could knit another one of these. So I have 95, so 190 yards, so 2 ounces plus this. So I have this. I'll have to look and see what the pattern is. And then I have 2 full skeins of this fuchsia. So it wouldn't be a bad thing to use these colors in another tank. And then I have not quite as much of the lavender left. And this is a knitted top, by the way. So, so we will see how many grams. So 2.5 ounces, 120 yards. Interesting. This is classic cotton, and this is 95 yards and 2 ounces. So I'm not sure why they are different. They're both loops and threads. So this is 57 grams and this is 71 grams. So I'll have to just do a little thinking about that, see if I have enough for another one of these Lola tops, because that would be pretty cool. Oh, I almost forgot the important part of why I knit this bag. So this is for color work, and I'll show you what I have cast on, but I want to show you get all the detritus out of here. So the way this works is that this bag has this tray with these yarn cups on it, and it's for color work. So the two on my left, so here, this one and this one are the yarn skeins I'm working with, and they just fit in there really nicely. I sewed the cups on this tray. They're supposed to have snaps, but I bought the wrong kind of snaps. This is just holding extra yarn, and this was kind of the prototype, as you can see, for the bag. And then, so I could make more yarn cups with my yarn as well. So this is fingering weight yarn. It is a self-striping yarn by Freckled Whimsey. And I cast on a sweater. So this is called the Backlit Tee. The contrast color is the self-striping yarn. You see that? I'm having a hard time holding this up so you can see. So I'm working on the yoke, and then the main color is a yarn that I bought off the sale rack in Ellensburg, and the color is called Observatory Circle, and it is an organic merino. It's called Studio Sock, but I don't see that there's any. Get out of there. Yeah, get out of there. You yarn murderer. Herbert's sticking his nose in there. I don't see that there's any nylon or anything in there, or silk that would make it sturdy for socks. So I think it's a good sweater yarn. And like I said, the other yarn is self-striping by Freckled Whimsey. It's called Magical Umbrella. It was part of the Harry Potter Club from August 2023, and it's an 8-stripe repeat. So I think it's going to make a great. So here's the front. The back does have short rows. And I do have a short sleeve version of this. It's from this book by Stephanie Lotvin, who is also Tilly Bean Knits. And the sweater is Backlit Tee, but I'm going to make it long sleeves. Oh, here. So here it is in this top. Yeah, right here. So that's the cast on that I did after I finished my podcast last week. So that's how I'm using that bag. My other cast on, I said last time that I was not going to cast on socks. Well, I cast on socks. The reason why I wasn't going to cast on socks is because there's Kay Jones has a new patron pattern coming out for her Bakery Bear patrons, I think in June, early June. So I was just going to take May off from socks, but I couldn't help it. I enjoy sock knitting in the evening when it can be a little mindless, I suppose. even though that pair of branches socks was not necessarily mindless, but the pattern was pretty, once I figured out the pattern, it was pretty easy to follow, even if I was watching TV and relaxing. Anyway, this is a bag my mom made, quilted bag. I use it a lot. You saw it when I was making what socks was I making? Oh, I was making the last Hermione's everyday socks out of this. So I have cast on knitting these 2 at a time using a mini set from Polka Dot Creek. So this is a garter cuff with a lace. It's pretty much a lace, not body, leg. That's what it's called. 64 stitches. This has 9. This particular set has 9. Get the other one out. So I've just started the garter on the second sock, and the reason why I'm knitting 2 at a time is because so I can keep the colors in a row. So I'm just doing the garter, and it called for a stretchy cast on. So I used a size US size 1, which I believe is a 2.5, 2 1/4 millimeter. These are ChowGoo red lace. And then the rest of the sock is knit in ChowGoo red lace size 0, 2 millimeter. 64 stitches. I can show you, it's a little bit of a mess in here, but I can show you, these were all, I think these are maybe 10-gram minis, but it's this kind of this whole turquoise colorway, and it was for a month. I want to say it's July of last year. So those are 5 of them. And here are the other, can you see those? There we go. How about here? There we go. So I need to figure out a better way. So this is the cuff, which is why it is much smaller. So I need to figure out a better way, because this is a little bit of a disaster. So this is the one that's in progress. So maybe I'll just wind these up while I'm talking, since this is the last work in progress right now. And then talk about just the rest of the day. How would that be? So this morning, I was rushing around. At the end of the first segment, you saw that the horses were fine. They were just having a little bit of a sport in the round pen. But I did see, when I was, kind of thinking about getting ready for the day, I did see Odin running around the round pen. And I was like, that just seems a little odd. And couldn't see Bragi, but he is that darker color and is not as easy to see. Odin, you can see if it's dark out, you can see him, which is kind of nice. And I was only going to just feed them hay, but then I saw that they needed water, and that was because I was going to have coffee with my friend in town, and I had some grocery shopping to do, and then also I need to work some today. So I was doing the horse chores, and it took longer than what I thought it should, in order to still get ready to go have coffee and start the day. But it was fine. It was totally fine. So I got to meet my friend on time. Knew I had some errands to run because of the grocery shopping, and just a couple other minor things like getting gas. That's really important. And so at about 10 to 8, I tell my friend, I need to watch the time because I do have to work today. Oops, I have a stitch stopper that is loose. No loose stitch stoppers because we don't want to lose stitches, which I have done already. So at 10 to 8, we part ways. 10 to 8. And I know I have some errands to run and stuff like that. And so I'm shopping. And then somebody I used to work with recognized me. She's like, "Oh, hey, Karina." So, I had to chat with her for a little bit, which was great. But then I'm like, "Oh, I gotta go." And so I got my groceries. Of course, there's 2 checkers and lots of people buying their weekly groceries. So I was like, okay, wait. And, take deep breaths because it'll be fine. Got out of there, was able to go get gas, run one other very short errand, just run in and out kind of errand. Did that. Got on the freeway, turned on my navigation. Mostly, of course I know how to get home. Mostly I just wanted to know what time was I going to get home. And it's like, phew, I will get home with 15 minutes to spare. That'll be great. I won't park in the garage. I'll just park in front, bring the groceries in, put them on the counter. Nothing needs to be refrigerated. Get that done, say hello to the cats, turn on my computer, and I see that my meeting starts at 10. Great. Well, I have time to podcast now, so that's awesome. I don't know about you, but this is the second time this week I have kind of mismanaged my time. On Monday, I was supposed to go to a PT appointment, and I had it all worked out in my head how it was going to go. I was going to feed the horses and then go. So I fed the horses and looked at the clock, and it's like, oh, I have 15 minutes before I need to leave. Meanwhile, the PT office is calling me, and I realize that I had totally miscalculated the hour that I was supposed to feed the horses. So I apologized profusely, and then we had the appointment for Wednesday, which was great. I'm making a ton of progress. Like I said, my PT was really happy with how I'm doing. It's giving me some strength exercises, so my arm's a little sore today, but it's a good sore. It's not a bad kind of sore. So that is up. Awesome. And then today, with I think my meeting's at 10, at 9, but it's actually at 10. Pardon me while I have a sip of tea. I'm drinking chamomile tea because obviously I need some calming. So today I'm, my trainer's coming over. I'm looking forward to working with Bragi some more. I have been doing some work with I think I recorded a session of writing, so I think I'm gonna try to experiment adding that and adding it to this episode and making it less watching paint dry, and maybe speed up areas that are really slow. I hesitate to do that because I think it's really important to understand that horse training is slow. And there's some people who have a real talent for showing very gentle horse training and it's still being highly educational. I would say, I can't remember if I reviewed this podcast, but Eicher Ranch, Eicher Ranch, has a really great way of doing that. And I know I've talked about Ryan Rose. He has a really great way of doing that. And sometimes it might seem repetitive. I'm not sure. I don't think it is. I always get something out of the lessons that they are trying to teach. So I'm kind of experimenting with that a little bit, and I had hoped to spend more time doing more work with Odin, but sometimes, just because there's time, so I should really name this podcast Time Management. Even though there's time in my planner for this, a chunk of time to do something, I'm finding I don't always have the mental bandwidth to do more thinking work. And with horses, you definitely need to be present. It's different than mowing a lawn or chopping vegetables, something that's pretty rote or routine. So I find like that I really have to think about what I am going to do with the horses, and think about how I might respond if something doesn't go as planned, which is difficult to do. How do you respond to something that doesn't go as planned if you don't know what that something is? So one of the things I've been doing with Bragi is I've just been doing this very simple exercise that I learned from Sam Van Fleet, who trains Mustangs, and I think I talked about her podcast a couple weeks ago. Bragi's a very sensitive horse. I've said this a number of times. So one of the things I've just been trying to do is to expose him to things that are going to surprise him. They're not dangerous, they're not scary, but he reacts to everything first. Whereas Odin tends to react with some curiosity most of the time. So I just took a long lead rope and just started kind of flinging it in his pen, not at him. But of course, Bragi was like, he turns into a dragon. He starts snorting and just getting all puffed up, and like he's really responding in a reactionary way. Whereas Odin comes out of his stall, he's like, what's that? Which I'm trying to teach Bragi to do. And that is the type of thing, it's like, okay, once you start doing this thing, you have to keep doing it until you get a response from the horse that tells you he is starting to learn. Because if he's panicked, like, oh my God, what is that? He's not learning. So I have to adjust what I'm doing. It's like, okay, maybe that was too close. Let me fling the rope in a different direction, away from him or something like that. And that might help him understand that it's really not at him. And it wasn't at him in the first place. It was just in his pen. But it was in his view. So I have to think about doing the exercise in a different way so he still has exposure, but it's at a level that he can handle. So I've done that with him a couple times this week. And the second time I did it, it went a lot faster. The camera said I was done talking. He understood what I was asking. No, he doesn't understand why. He's probably wondering, why are you doing this, you weirdo? But he understood that the answer was to look at me and stop backing away and getting all puffy. He kind of put his nose forward a little bit and is like, okay, I know this is often the right answer. Is if I look at you, then you'll tell me what the answer is. So that's what we have worked on. I don't always have the bandwidth to ride Odin in the week, even if I'm just putting the bareback pad on and just doing some very simple exercises. Again, it's a very similar thing. It's like, I know what the exercise is. What if he doesn't understand what I'm asking? What am I going to do to help him? And that's where sometimes I don't have the bandwidth to do that, especially if I have a big project, which I'm sure I've talked about this before. I'm going to try to get better at that because my employer encourages us to take time away from our desks to do some other creative thinking, and it can be something else. And one thing that I have learned a great deal from working with horses is that I have become very attuned to body language, because horses are nonverbal and they can only tell you what they are feeling or thinking through their body language. So even in people, I have become much more attuned to body language. Like if someone's feeling, I notice if they kind of pull back, or one of my colleagues, we were in a meeting, and it was a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, and I could tell that she had a thought, and that there was some talking going around in the group, and I just kind of called it out. I was like, Megan, it looks like you have something to say. And she appreciated that. She wasn't ready. She says, yes, I have a thought forming, but it's not fully forming yet. So all that to say, and she said she would bring it up when it was more complete in her mind. All that to say is that I feel like, taking a step away from the computer and doing some of this work that may not seem related, it can really apply to your work. And I think that is a great way to be creative, maybe creatively problem solve is what I am going to, how I'm going to address that, or label that, I think is a better word. So I have been going on for quite a while, and it really is time for me to get to work. This could be another long one. So I hope you have something nice to drink and a great project to work on. And if you're not interested in the horsemanship, I will see you next time. Take care. Okay, friends, just gonna do another session on practicing what I practiced a couple days ago on Friday. Today is it's Sunday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you, 2025. It's a little windy out. As soon as I step away from the camera, since I'm not wearing a microphone, you won't be able to hear me, so I will do a voiceover. First, let's make sure that Odin's belt is buckled. Yeah, you're a good boy. Thank you, buddy. Belt is buckled. Boy, thanks for being such a good boy. Thanks for being such a good boy. Let's work on it. Where do you want to go? Good boy. work. tiny cut up. Good job. Good work. Okay. Ready? Keep going. There you go. Good job. That was really good. There you go. Next one here. Right this way. There you go. Good job, buddy. Good job.